How was your experience at the Air Force Academy? I've heard those military schools are no joke.
Dude, the first 2 years suck. And then the third, fourth, and fifth year, because I had to go 5 years because I wasn't smart enough to get into the Air Force Academy the first time. Man, they still suck. They just suck a little bit less, you know? But I would say, yeah, it's a good experience. You make a lot of good friends. You have things that happen to you at such a young age that you couldn't get anywhere else. Leadership training, survival training, basic training, and then you get a job after graduating. Like it's a pressure cooker. It's a pressure cooker for 5 years, and it's like only I think the attrition rate it's almost half. Only half the class graduates.
Oh my gosh! Just because they drop out, they just can't handle all that pressure.
Yeah.
Damn. What do you think got you through that? Was it the motivation of like, I don't really know what else I would do, or what do you think kept you going through that?
I think what started me and what kind of kept me in it was the idea that, on the other side of like leaving this prestigious opportunity was a version of me that had to always reflect back on being like, fuck, like what would have happened if I had just stuck with it? And I didn't want to have that regret in my life. And then another part of me that kind of got through it was, dude, there's just this, they do a really good job of telling you, hey, if you graduate from here, you're the cream of the crop. And so, I'm young, right? I want that external validation. I want to be able to be like the best of the best. And so I was like, dude, that's enough for me to stick it out. And then once I found my crew of guys that I ran with, like game over from there.
Interesting. So like the confidence that they gave you while you were there, because they're like, it sounded like they were telling you like, you're here for a reason. You're here because you're a step above average. Is that what it was, kind of?
Yeah, as we talked about this, I think it was my first introduction to sales. They were selling it hard, man. Like, you're the best of the best. You're going to be the cream of the crop. Like, nobody else is going to stand a chance against you, right? Like, all of that type of stuff. They were just sowing the seed, and they did a good job. And so I bought into it, hook, line, and sinker. I'm glad I did. I don't know if it's 100% true, but I'm glad I did.
Would you go through military school like that again if you had to like redo that part of your life?
Like, knowing what I know now.
Yeah.
Oh shit, man! I don't know. I've had like nightmares where I'm like starting all over and like I lost it. So I don't know if I would do it again. I don't think dude. I don't think I can make 5 years of it. Not now. There's no way.
That's
It's kind of like getting tattoos. Like tattoos hurt a lot less when I was trying to impress girls. I was like, damn, they're gonna think these are awesome. And now that like I'm married and my wife doesn't give a shit, it's like every time I get a tattoo, I'm like, oh, these hurt so bad. Why am I doing this? Right. So I think in that same vein, I don't know if I'd want to stick through the pain, man.
that's funny. I've never heard anybody compare the a military school to tattoos, but I get the correlation. That makes perfect sense. So after you graduated from Air Force, did you serve after that? Correct.
Yeah. So I served for 6.5 years. I was supposed to go to pilot training. Ended up deciding, well, I kind of want to be with this girl that I'm with. I don't really know if I want to spend 12 years in the military. And ended up deciding to not go to pilot training. We broke up just a few months later. And, I think it was one of the best decisions I made because it allowed me to, move to LA. I worked on nuclear defense systems, with the German government down in Hawaii for a few years. I was down in
Yeah.
like Cheyenne Mountain, so like NORAD, like the base inside the mountain for a few years. And then I wrapped the whole thing up with Afghanistan for 7.5 months. So it was quite the experience, and definitely glad that I made the decision to not go fly.
Holy cow, that's wild. So you said you were in LA doing stuff with the German army and like nuclear arms. What did you say that was? That sounds like a
Yeah.
wild experience.
So I was working on nuclear defense systems, so
Okay.
satellite systems that if the U.S. was going to get an attack on it, we would have the intercept technology to basically take out whatever attack was coming our way. And that's what we were working on.
Damn. That's a very unique perspective, unique position to be in. That's cool.
Yeah, it was cool. I mean, like I'm 23, as a brand new second lieutenant, and I'm like, what the hell? I can't. Why are you guys trusting me with this? But I mean, you get thrown into the deep end, and it's like you're definitely in the fire. And
Yeah.
so I learned a lot about just the ability to become an effective communicator, to lead other men and women, and just the magnitude of what we actually do.
Dang. So you had some soldiers or other military members like underneath you that you were in charge of?
Yeah, I had some additional airmen below me. I also had a lot of civilians that I worked with. So I had, right out of the gate, I'm leading people at 23, and yeah, I mean, you don't know a whole lot, so you're trying to figure it out on the fly and kind of pick up on what you learned at the academy. But that's like really my first exposure to managing different personalities, different people, different sexes. So yeah, it was a lot.
Interesting. Yeah, it seems like the military is so good at teaching people how to be leaders. Like lead a small group of people, or obviously as you progress, bigger and bigger groups of people, and just how to manage people, and provide like that individual approach to all these people within a group. Is that, do you think, one of the biggest lessons you got out of being in the military?
I think leadership was a big one. I also think just the ability for time management and like project management, that's a really big one that I took out of that. And then just, discipline, and not discipline and being like, oh, working out really hard and that type of stuff, but like discipline in the sense of like, sometimes you have to do the boring stuff to get the job done. And it's not always the sexy thing to do. But the discipline to stay focused on those tasks is really important. And when you start your own business, that's kind of helped me a ton.
Yeah, that's the idea of discipline versus like motivation, where like motivation is this like temporary feeling that you get that like might get you off the couch and go do something, or might get you to start a business, but like it's the discipline that I think is required to stick with something, and like you said, show up on the days where you don't want to be there, on the stuff that's like so boring and like mundane that nobody else wants to do. But that's what the discipline is to me. Is that kind of what how you would describe it as well?
Dude, I think motivation is kind of like the spark to start to build some discipline, especially in the beginning. Like some people are disciplined in certain areas of their life, but let's be real. Like you need some motivation from time to time to simply get back into whatever your discipline is. Like, dude, I love turning on some good Jocko or some David Goggins or whatever YouTube video, insert it into my headphones sometimes just to get me out, and go work out. But the majority of the time I don't need it. So I think motivation kind of comes into play in the beginning when you're building out your habits before your habits turn into a discipline. But eventually you realize like motivation, it's just like happiness. It's a fleeting emotion, and it comes and goes so fast that you have to rely on this discipline aspect, because motivation is emotional and discipline has no emotion to it. And so when your emotional gas tank is gone, discipline is what you can kind of lean on. Would you feel the same way?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, you described it perfectly. That's exactly how I was thinking about it. It was like motivation's a feeling, discipline is like a skill, basically. It's like one has, one's tied to emotion, one is not. So I think that's a perfect way of thinking about it. And I think even just like acknowledging that and thinking about things in that way is so powerful, because I think, a lot of people, unfortunately, they don't even take the time to consider how these different things affect them, and like, take action on some of these things. But even just thinking about it in that way is probably super helpful for a lot of people.